Hello everyone and welcome to a loyal new episode of the StudioMEcast. I'm your host, Peter Regan, joining you from StudioME in East Liberty, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have a guest for you. As always, we're going to be joined by Jacqui Wrae, who is a composer who did her composing debut for film and media and all that for the short film Reminiscence, which was part of the Horror Sci-fi Pittsburgh 48-hour film project, which, in other news, the Pittsburgh Horror Sci-fi Pittsburgh 48-hour film project opens registration for teams July 22nd, so make sure you get your teams together. We're sure to have an exciting fall with this one. It's always a fun event. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and on with the show. Jacqui, thank you for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Now, you've done music for a long time, but more recently you've started to get into composing for film and video. You did the music for Reminiscence, which was at the previous Horror Sci-fi Pittsburgh 48-hour film project here, which Jeff Smee was in and is directed by Jamie Chalmers. We've had them on the show to interview them about that, but one of the things that really stood out to a lot of people that I talked to and stood out to me was the music for it, which you did. Was that your first time creating music for a short film?
Yes, that was.
How did you, I mean, it's also a 48-hour film project, so you don't have a whole lot of time to do it. What was your approach to this film with the music? Did you start writing before they started shooting? Was it all after? Tell me about how that happened.
So because I was doing a lot more than just the music for that one in particular, I did not get to do the music until like that Sunday that we had to turn it in.
Oh, wow.
I think I started it around 11, 12, because of all the hiccups that I kept running into. So I had about five or 6 hours to write it.
You were also in the film.
Yeah.
Right. Were there other positions that you held for that?
I helped with the camera, and I think that was about it.
All right, so you're on camera, you're also in front of the camera, and you're also doing music starting on Sunday. That sounds like you may have had a really severe time crunch with the music. What was that like?
It would have been easier if Jeff had just given me a little bit more direction. Because he was the producer for that one. So what he does is he has to do every little detail as he goes instead of just putting everything together and then all the details. And I just wanted everything together as like one whole piece so I could just write to it. So I basically was writing blind, going through in my head like what we had done, going over the script, trying to figure out what the music should sound like.
So wait, were you writing music before you saw an edit of the film? Oh, wow, that's interesting. I've heard of some cases of that kind of thing happening, like outside of the 48, I mean, as well. I thought that it matched up really nicely. There's particularly the big moment, which, by the way, people will have a link to Reminiscence in the description below, so check that out there. It's a liminal horror film, and if you don't know what that means, look it up after you've seen the film and, see how they did. I thought it was a really cool thing. But, yeah, the writing the music before seeing a cut of it, but having been in the scenes, were you... It's very tonal. It seems a lot of the music is really enhancing the atmosphere that's there on screen, and you're dealing with a horror film as well. Did you take any cues from other historical soundtracks? Do you listen to not historical, horror soundtracks, or do you listen to movie soundtracks a lot? Was that something that you got some inspiration from? What kind of approach did you take for that?
So my approach to writing music is about grasping the emotion that is wanting to be grasped by the audience. So that's basically what I asked Jeff for, is what emotion are you wanting for different scenes? And the hardest one was the anxiety buildup. If anyone has seen the film, it's when Jeff's character is on the couch and he's trying to practice the EMDR, and then he's just like kind of freaking out. And I didn't know how to write anxious sounding music, so I kind of just looked up different things. Originally, before the whole 48-hour film project started, I was listening to A Quiet Place soundtrack, Signs soundtrack. So a few of really good movies with really good soundtracks I listened to beforehand. Signs was probably one of the biggest inspirations for that. Not that the music in Reminiscence sounds anything like Signs, but it gave me like that eeriness. And I ended up finding something on YouTube, like just kept pulling up different videos of different songs for anxious feelings. I mean, most of them were trying to make you not feel anxious, which was not what I was going for.
Yeah.
So like meditative, and so that's not quite what I wanted. Not even a little bit. So I just kept going through them and eventually found something. And then I got to thinking about like when you're listening or watching a commercial for like end of the world type movies, there's always that like horn blowing siren type sound. And I'm like, I kind of want something like that, but that's not a siren, but more music. So I ended up finding a sound on the program that I used for that.
And which program did you use?
For Reminiscence, I had GarageBand on my
fantastic.
iPad.
Yes. All right. Well, wonderful. Well, you had a really cool. You made a lot of really cool contributions to that film for the Horror Sci-fi 48 in the fall, but then this most recent 48-hour film project here in Pittsburgh, you were the team leader for the film Anything at All with Rick Dutro and Stephanie Swift, and then, of course, a bunch of the people that we mentioned before. My wife was on the team as well. She had a great experience. So going from not having done much film and video stuff with music before Reminiscence to then leading a team, what made you want to lead a team in the first place? So what was that an inspiration from your experience on Reminiscence? What made you decide to do that?
So it's actually kind of a funny story. Jeff was not buying the team. I don't know what you would call it, registering for a team. And I kept asking him, and it was like we were getting very like close on time, like we're crunching time. So I decided to threaten him that if he doesn't get the team, by a certain time, then I'm going to get the team myself, and I'm going to name it Smeagol, thinking that he would hate that name and buy the team. But he wasn't doing that. And so I ended up, we were all out, I think it was after his viewing of his movie, Dead. I was telling all of his friends, I'm like, if he doesn't do this, like, I'm going to just call it Smeagol. And then everyone was like, oh, no, you got to call it Smeagol. You got to do it. You just got to do it. So I gave him until Sunday afternoon, like Sunday by noon. And he stood in, and I think he kind of inadvertently, not accidentally, did that. He, like, what is it called? He accidentally on purpose didn't buy the team.
Right. Yeah, well, I hadn't heard that background of the name for it before. Like, I understood Smeagol, Jeff Smee, haha, but I didn't realize that was kind of a making good on a threat.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's fun. Cool. Yeah, because I was curious. I was like, oh, I wonder why that was. But that's funny. So, and he ended up shooting that film, Anything at All.
Yeah.
And which... description below, people. Check out the link. You can watch it there as well. So tell me a bit about when you so you started with saying, "Hey, if you don't do this, I will." All right. Because you wanted a film to get made, I guess. All right. That's correct? All right,
Yeah.
cool. So you wanted a film to get made. So you took matters into your own hands. Very cool. What was the experience like being a team leader for this project? Like what was, I guess, maybe was there a first moment that you realized, oh, I'm really doing this? Like I've actually got to do this now. What was that like?
I didn't have that feeling until the viewings of the films,
Really?
like the first viewings, when we had to go down to when PJ would have us go down and talk about the film. I really I didn't feel like the leader. I kind of just felt like I grabbed a bunch of friends, people that I felt are really good at what they do, and brought them together, and that was it. Like, the only thing I did was get people together. Everybody else did the work.
Well, that's sometimes how it is, Yeah. And you did the music for this one as well.
I did
right?
do the music for that one too.
Very different score for this, for anything at all, than Reminiscence. Can you talk a bit about your different, like, did you use the same approach and just get different results because of different subject matter, or did you try something new with your approach on this one?
So I actually, I had a whole entire different software program for music. I ended up purchasing Logic Pro, and I had a MIDI keyboard to also use. And that helped a lot. I had a lot more instruments to choose from. And when we were given drama, the first kind of thought that I had for music is like very orchestral, very piano. If I could, play guitar better, I would have had guitar in there. But so I wanted it to be very no drums, just soft, very emotional. And once we got the script together and knew what our story basis was, I wanted people to feel that emotion. And with me being the team leader, I guess I had full reins of that in that sense. But I still met with Jamie, the director, about what he wants in different sounds and different areas. Because there were a couple spots where I'm not entirely sure what you want. This is my idea. My idea was a bit too strong, a bit too dramatic. So he ended up sending me a couple things for me to use for inspiration. And in fact, he actually sent me an Interstellar song, a song from the Interstellar score. And I kind of used that as a basis of the sound and whatnot, with more piano, more strings, no drums. I don't think there's any drums in it at all, actually. And I just wanted people to really feel the emotion. Claire is a song. I actually met with Jess at one point because it was her song, because I wanted each person to have their own theme this time, and last time I didn't have that. I wanted this one to have a theme for each person. And so I asked Jess, when you think of this character, what kind of song do you think of? And she said Claire de Lune. And I thought it was funny because her name in the film is Claire, and so I ended up calling the song Claire de Love.
Aw, that's nice.
And it is, I use the same kind of softness, going in a little big and then coming back down, but still very, very soft and romantic for her.
Very cool. So, when did you get to start writing music for this one? Was it on Sunday again, like Reminiscence?
No, I actually started on Saturday. So we filmed the whole thing in my house, and my house does not always look like that, I promise.
I thought it looked rather...
For anybody who sees it,
there's the rubbish on the... Okay.
And
I was it looks
yeah.
rather nice, actually.
Well, when it's
yes,
messy,
with
yeah.
the set dressing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they were filming downstairs, and I was upstairs doing the music. So I basically was just in my windowsill writing the music while they were downstairs, I felt a little lonely because they're all doing their own thing, and I'm just by myself trying to put this together and getting frustrated with myself because it's not sounding what I want it to sound like. But yeah, I did have to eventually step away from it, and then I showed a couple of the actors and people on set what they thought, and they gave me some really good pointers, and I really appreciated those pointers. I did finish the rest of the music on Sunday. Like, I didn't write all of the music on Saturday. I finished most of it on Sunday.
Oh, fantastic. So when you're writing this, are you at your keyboard? Are you coming up with music? Are you writing on like paper for this? Like, what does your process look like in this moment?
I am just at my keyboard and just playing different sounds. What I end up doing is just going through all of the instruments, similar to the sounds that I would want. Sometimes I have to go through like all of the pads or different, what are they called? Like sound effects kind of sounds, which does take some time. But once I do get that sound that I'm looking for, that like I write it down on in a notebook to say, this is the sound that I want for this song, and this is where you can find it, basically. Because there's over 1,000 different sounds in Logic Pro. So once I got that sound, I just started playing around with the notes. And once I heard something and I'm like, oh, I like that, that's what I went with.
Now, you talked about being frustrated of trying to get the music to sound the way that you want it to, but then like, you like that. Is the experience for you of doing music for films, do you find it to be more or less enjoyable than any other time you might be doing music? Is it something that you've found a special interest in at this point, now that you've done it a couple times?
I wouldn't say that it makes me enjoy it less or more. What it does is it pushes me to do it. Whereas if I am just sitting at home and decide, oh, I want to write some music, I'm sitting at home and I just write music and that's it. The 4 dates are the only things that I have written music for, so like I don't have anything else that I've done music for other than for my own accord. So anytime that I have like any sort of inspiration, I do it, but then, we all get writer's block, or unmotivated, or feel like we are not doing as good as we think we are. And I've had to put myself in a place where like I'm not going to get better if I don't do it. So I've kind of had to push myself a couple times to work on like music, even if it's just for excuse my language, shits and giggles.
All right. Well, yeah. So now that you've done this with film a couple of times now, is it something that you're going to continue to do?
I'd like to. That is definitely something that it is a dream of mine to really get music out there that honestly like moves the soul. Like there's a lot of movies out there that are bad movies but have good music, and it makes it a little bit of a better movie. And then you have movies that are a good movie and it has great music and it makes it a great movie. And then you have the great music or great movies with great music makes it an amazing movie. Movie or music can either destroy a movie or make it better, and that's what I want to do. Like, because sometimes like you might not have a great film, but throw the right music in there and it changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. There's one film that I'm not going to mention which one it is, but it was one of those times that I realized music was making something worse.
Oh yeah, it can definitely do that. It can, yeah.
And it honestly was a time where it shouldn't have had music in this particular moment. And the reason why was because there was a moment of some tension in the film. This isn't a local film or anything like that, but there was a moment of tension where like someone's like holding a gun on someone else, and they're stressed out and everything, and the other person starts to try and talk them down. And when they do that, like once they like begin to talk the other person down, the hopeful, chill, like, you know, the everything's gonna be okay music starts like immediately. And maybe it's just a choice. Maybe it's not technically worse. I don't know. But for me, it's like once that hopeful brass came in, I was just like, you knew that the person wasn't going to shoot. You know, it's like all of the suspense completely disappeared. And it's like the guy has a while before this other character has decided to not blow him away, you know. And it was just one of those things that I was like, oh, man, you could have whatever. But yeah, no, like music can change so much about a scene. It can make something a lot funnier or serious. It can make the hairs stand on the back of our necks, you know. Are there but you said this is a dream for you, something that you've been interested in doing for a while. Now, how was this a dream that came about before Reminiscence or as a result of these experiences?
A little bit of both. So when I was in high school, you know, when we were all filled with, you know, hopes and dreams for the future before, you know, life hit us, I ended up writing, I had a dream that I wrote a script to, hoping that my friends who were in a bunch of plays with me would get together and, like, film this. It never ended up happening, but I ended up writing my very first song. And that song, it did write it, like, with the notes on, I guess, paper. It was on a computer. It's called Note Flight. It's a really not well-known music creator website. So that was the first place that I ever wrote a song. And I did write it, like, from start to end, and it, like, was a whole scene. Like, I even wrote in the notes for the whole music sheet music, what is happening when. And it never ended up being, and it's just kind of, like, floating around the internet somewhere, so yeah. Life then happened. I felt that, you know, I should have more realistic goals, you know, things that actually make a living. So I just went to school for psychology and to have, you know, a job. And it wasn't until I met Jeff that I got back into music, like seriously got back into music. It was doing the music for Reminiscence that made me realize, like, I actually have something here. Like, there's something that I can do. There's a lot that I have to learn, but it's something that I would love to one day do.
Now, that surprises me because so had you taken a break from music for a bit? Is that what you're saying?
A little bit. Back in, like, 2019, I stepped away from music altogether for quite a while because it was, like, it caused a lot of pain for me, because before that I was doing something that involved music and then ended up getting emotionally hurt. So after that I kind of just walked away from the music because I couldn't do it. Even though, like, I had learned the piano and guitar for that purpose of that, I really could not go up to the piano. And doing the music for Reminiscence, like, it was a little hard, in all honesty, to, you know, I mean, I wasn't at a piano, I was on the iPad, but it's still kind of like a digital piano, to sit down and play the digital piano and do something with it and not have those memories go back to that. And it honestly helped me to move forward from it. So.
Wow. Yeah, I know about what you're referring to because when you and I first met at, I think it was Matt's house party, and I don't know if you and I had, like, met before or not, but that was the first time we really talked, you know, and you told me a bit about that experience. So I didn't realize that you had that kind of break until Reminiscence. I'm really glad you were able to work through some things with that experience on Reminiscence because I really enjoyed the music for that short a lot. And it was cool to, yeah, I mean, like, and it builds in a really cool way also, but it's really fascinating to hear that you had basically taken a break from music and then you come out with that. It's a pretty cool comeback.
Thank you. I mean, I played around a little bit here and there, but not like I used to. Because I would post TikToks of me singing all the time, and then like I just couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about this then. We're going to go back to Reminiscence today. Okay. With all that in mind, what you just talked about, all right, because you played around with some stuff, you said, but maybe this was the first time in a while that, like, you're going to present your music to people. It's going to be a room full of people that you're in that room with them, all right? For when Reminiscence screened, haha, it was a horror. When it screened at, it had its first screening, and then it was at the Best of screening as well. Did you go to both screenings for that? All right. So what was the experience for you, like, being at either one of those screenings? Like, when your film's about to come up, and, people are going to see the film that you're a part of. What was going through your mind? Were you nervous, excited? What was it like?
I was terrified. So I was extremely nervous about like what the response of the audience would be. And a lot of people, when they're watching movies, like they don't really pay that close attention to the music unless it is like music like Lord of the Rings and Interstellar and, what's another one? Another really good... Game of Thrones. Like when it's music like that, it sticks with people. And that's kind of like what I wanted, but also not at the same time, like not quite like where, you have the da 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 where people are singing and humming, as they're cleaning their house. I wanted them to be affected by the music just because it affected them. So I wasn't like expecting them to see it like, super melodic. And I expected them to be more about like the film itself, rather than the music. But when I was sitting there listening and watching it for the first time, like with the, on the big screen with those, loudspeakers, I was like, I had goosebumps, and it was really cool to hear that. Like it made me very giddy, probably the same amount of giddiness when I wrote the very last song and the last part of the last song. And like I was like super giddy, but like, oh, this is going to be so cool,
It's working, they like it. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that feeling of like and being in the room with everybody while it's happening, and you can feel how everyone's reacting to it. Whether it's such a mysterious thing, because whether people are like being like vocal or whatever about how they're reacting to a film, when you are watching a movie that you've made or worked on with a bunch of people, you know exactly what everybody's thinking the whole time. It's like you can tell what's like, oh, that is funny. Yes, it was. Or if you have a film and you realize, oh, wait, this part is dragging or something like that, you can always feel it. Yeah. Which is nuts. But well, that's a wonderful story. I'm glad that it went so well. Also. Now, how was this viewing for Reminiscence? Was it different at all when you went to screen anything at all?
Oh, yeah. So I was scared that the music wasn't going to be loud enough. Because when Jeff was editing it into the film, which there were certain parts that he had so soft you can barely hear it, and I liked that a lot, actually, because it was like where you'd have to almost strain your ears to hear it, and I think that was beautifully done that way. I would not have changed that, but like there were some parts, like the beginning was like super loud, and it's like a lot of people just kind of like went like, back in their seats, like, holy crap, that was loud, because they weren't expecting the music to come in right there with the logo, because a lot of people don't do that, at least not in 48-hour stuff that I've seen. Obviously big movies, that happens all the time. That's why I wanted to do that, because I wanted to be like, you know what, I want this to look as professionally done as I possibly can make it look. So I told Jeff, like, I want something of the music that I wrote to be in the very beginning. You choose what it is in there. So listening to it like on the big screen, it was very different for anything at all because I was less like giddy. And honestly, I felt kind of bad because by the end of our film, people were crying. But I also was like tearing up too because I do feel that I somehow, and I honestly don't know how, wrote the music to be so impacting that it brings tears to people's eyes because it just brings the whole story together of anything at all.
That's such a fascinating thing when you don't know how you did it, you know.
Yeah.
It's, but it's real, you know. It's like you're stepping into the current of something that does exist that people connect to, and that's fascinating stuff there. Well, wonderful. So, are these are there other films at the up to this point that you've done music for at this point?
I did music for a different film for like a different competition, but their final edit, they ended up taking the music out because I did not have Logic Pro at the time. I had my actual keyboard. It's like just a Roland Juno keyboard. So the sound quality was not good when it transferred from the keyboard to the chords to the inverter to the computer. So that didn't, and I understand why they took it out because it just was not good sound quality. Plus, they had a genre that they wanted, disco, and I have learned I am not good at writing disco. Jeff helped me probably the most on that song than anything I've ever written, because he basically sat down at the computer and started messing with it himself. Even though we had a song to be inspired by, I think it was like September or something like that, because it's very disco-y, very 70s, and I just still was not doing well with it for some reason.
Well, so at this point, though, you're looking to continue with this. Wonderful. So, do you know if you're going to do another 48 this fall?
We're thinking about it. We aren't entirely sure yet, but we are definitely thinking about it. I like doing them because it challenges me. I understand on, Jeff's behalf that he's done this so many times. He works here, like he, does this professionally. Like he's even created his own, semi-short film. And it was really well done. So like he doesn't need the 48 for people to recognize him. Or for him to know what he can do. I think that he has a lot, even more potential than he does now, but like he's still, I would say Hollywood, style. Like he is as good as Hollywood. I, on the other hand, am not. I'm just starting out, and I want to see what I can do. I want to push myself, to challenge myself. But for me, I don't want to work on a team that's like neck to neck with each other, stressed out, like where I'm getting absolutely no direction whatsoever. Like at least Jeff would give me emotion, even though he didn't give me a whole lot of direction, he gave me emotions to go off of. And I appreciated that, like, because that helped a lot. But I would want to be very careful on, who to work with, because I want to stay away from the drama.
Right.
And I'm not OCD at all, and the people in their talents, which is totally not why I chose the people that I chose for this time.
Well, that's all right. So now, sort of moving a little bit away from music, because you said like you're just starting or you're just beginning. But to like be clear with composing for film, because you've been doing music for forever at this point, right? Now you're also a substance abuse counselor.
Yes.
Is music something that and that's just seems like a really tough line of work?
It can be.
Is music something that, you know, I don't know, helps you with doing that kind of thing?
So when I originally went to school, I wanted to be a music therapist, and it just didn't end up working out that way. It turns out there's a lot of math to music theory, and math and I don't get along. So I did not do well with that.
Took me a long time before I was able to, you know, force a ceasefire with mathematics, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So that obviously did not help me at all, and so I just stuck with psychology instead of like the music therapy. Turns out the school didn't have a music therapy program anyways, and you do have to go to an accredited school for music therapy specifically.
what drew you toward music therapy?
It's this movie called The Music Never Stops, and it is about this man who had a tumor, like a cancerous tumor or maybe benign tumor. Either way, it was in his brain. He had it removed. But the mass had taken up so much of the brain that like he couldn't function. He was a vegetable, just like staring into blank space all the time. And his father decided to take him into a music therapist. And as soon as he did, like he just was bright and talking and walking around and like as if, you know, nothing was wrong. But as soon as the music stopped, he was back to being, you know, just sitting there like staring ahead. And this is based on true stories like that have actually happened, and that's what really like inspired me to like go toward that, because I loved seeing that change. I love helping people. I love just like I guess inspiring people, and that's basically why I wanted to go into that. But even in, you know, substance use, I mean there are times that you will have someone who is not able to connect with people because of an accident, or because, you know, the drugs caused brain damage. So sometimes you'll run into people who are in similar states. And I actually got to experience that for the first time because I decided to use music as a coping skill. I'm not a music therapist, so I can't do music therapy, but I used music as a coping skill. And this woman, she went from like not being able to remember anything to talking about everything from her past. And it was amazing. Like, and I just continued letting the music play while she talked because it was good, because I needed to know her history. And I couldn't get her history up until that point because she couldn't remember, and quite often like she would make up different memories because of the injury that she endured.
Can I ask
cool
what music you played for that?
I played a song that for her request. So she requested a Nickelback song. Of all things.
Wow,
it was kind of funny.
Wow. If it works, it works, people.
It works, yeah, it worked. Yeah.
Wow, how about that?
So
that's fascinating.
Yeah. So I do use it a little bit in my field. I like to have like bring in different instruments in for them to play to learn coping skills to help them basically kind of figure out what can I do to give me a goal for motivation or whatever. Because a lot of them, like, they don't have those things. They've been, you know, brought down their whole life and kicked, and they don't have any hope for the future. So once you get those, what are they called, like dreams and values back into their life, like their passions back into their life, then they have something they want to fight for. And sometimes bringing the music into that helps a lot, because like a lot of them were instrumentalists at one point.
Wow. That's
not all of them, but a lot.
That's wonderful to hear. That's really incredible stuff. Well, I've got another question for you. And it's never occurred to me to ask a composer this before. When you are writing music, do you listen to music as well?
I don't. I don't know if other people do, but I can't listen to music and write my own at the same time. My brain just can't coordinate like that.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But I do, like, I'll listen, beforehand for inspiration, or I'll stop and then listen to something and then go back to writing, but not like while I'm writing.
Well, you mentioned these things with your work that you do, and some of that. Are there? I mean, with film, it might be. There's an obvious connection where you're writing music for the story that's there and all the emotions. But are there other art forms that inspire you as a composer, like a painting or anything that might? I mean, I don't know, is there music always going on in your head? Like, how does that work?
There's like 40 tabs open. I don't know what's going on with them, and there's music just kind of going on in the background somewhere, and then I don't know, some person talk. No, I'm kidding. There's not no one talking. Yeah, no, it's. I do feel like there is music kind of always playing in my head. I woke up to some song this morning. I don't remember what song it was, but it was like some song from the 90s, maybe early 2000s, that just kept playing over and over and over in my head. So yeah, I mean, like, sometimes there's, but sometimes there's not. Like, there are times when my brain is just like, I don't know, when I'm in an anxious mode, I'm just thinking about what I'm thinking about, and there's no music. I guess I don't pay attention that much to it because maybe I'm just used to it. I don't know. But what, like, other things that inspire me besides music, sometimes stories. Like, if I'm reading a book, I can kind of hear the music going on, as I'm watching, in my head, the story play out as I'm reading. I know that not everybody can, I just learned that not everybody can do that. Like, they just read and it's just the words. They understand the words and there's no picture. But I see the picture and I hear the music going on in the background too. Sometimes I don't. Kind of just depends on how invested I am and how, I guess, actiony the part is.
I'm not sure which ones they are. That my sister-in-law was telling me about this, that some authors make their own playlists for what you can listen to while you're reading their
I've
books.
seen that, and I think that's awesome.
I think that's a cool idea.
Because it gives it gives the readers an idea of like the attitude and feeling.
There's one book I read that one book only I've ever read. No, it's called The House of the Scorpion. It's a young adult novel. I read it ages. I might have been 17 now. Wow, gosh, how the time flies. Anyway, there's in that book there's a moment where they're talking about there's a choir that's singing something, and it's from an opera. And I looked it up real quick and read the rest of that bit with that music on, which I hope that's what the author hoped people would do, because it was one of the coolest reading experiences. Because I mean, I've read with music on before, like normally not, but for that one in particular, just having that bit of music playing while reading the rest of that chapter was transcendent, if I may borrow the word. So that's a cool thing. So you write music. Are you also a lyricist?
No.
Okay.
I really struggle with lyrics, like, bad.
Have you ever worked with a lyricist before?
No, I have not.
Mm-hmm. When you're doing your music, is there ever a collaborative element to it, as far as not lyricists now, but do you ever have other musicians come on and offer their work to what you're doing?
I have not yet. I don't. I get scared that hanging out with someone who's got like this big degree and has all this experience, that they're gonna look at me and be like, yeah, you little puny thing. So it is actually very intimidating to think about like working with another person. Plus everybody has their own style of music, so it would be hard to find the right person to match that, or to find someone that clashes enough that it works. Because like there are, artists out there, like for movies that I've seen that I'm like, I'm not a fan of that, composer. But then there's, composers that I absolutely love. And there are composers that I would never be able to write the music like that because it's not my style, but I still love it. So like it kind of, I guess it would just depend on that. But I would just mainly feel intimidated by the person with all of the experience and the degrees and such.
Right. Do you have a favorite composer?
Yeah. So film or not film?
Either or.
Okay.
Both. Why not?
So my favorite composer that's not film is Ola Yelo. Absolute most beautiful music I've ever listened to in my life. He does a lot of choir music, a lot of just orchestral, a lot of piano. My favorite film score composer is Hans Zimmer. Used to be Howard Shore, but then sadly Hans Zimmer.
Sadly?
Yeah, because I love Howard Shore. Like he's still fantastic, but there's just something about the sound that Hans Zimmer has that just like it gives me goosebumps every single time. Like I love singing along and humming to Howard Shore's music, but it's like Hans Zimmer just knows how to get the feelings.
And there's a lot of Hans Zimmer imitators that, and you can always tell when it's him.
Oh yeah.
It's like there's not just because of the movie you're watching, but yeah, that's it's sort of like when someone has a distinct sound that a lot of people really connect with. Yeah. There's a lot of copycats. It's not just music. It's like a lot of writers tried to do some Tarantinoing. Excuse me, that's an actual word, people. In their dialogue, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna have people speak casually to each other for a really long time, and it's like, yeah, but do you get the point? Anyway, but yeah, Hans Zimmer, not a bad choice at all, right?
Yeah.
So, but cool. All right, so we've gone over some of your favorite composers' work. And all that. Is there anything that, well, you mentioned your TikTok and stuff before. Have you started posting new things since then, or is that...
just goofy stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's...
is it music still?
No.
No.
No. It's like the most random things, like anything that I see that's funny, I just kind of, I'm like, oh, I'll post that soon. It doesn't go anywhere. I don't really care if it goes anywhere. I thought about putting my music on there, but the problem is like I don't know what to put with the music, like visually. So I think I'd rather just kind of post it on YouTube than throw it on TikTok, because most of the TikTok users are, let's say, fairly younger than us. And their attention span is that of a squirrel a lot of times, so you have to catch their attention.
At least when they're on that app, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And those apps definitely don't help with the attention.
Right.
So, yeah, you have to grasp their attention, like, immediately, but with music, sometimes you can't do that. Like, there's a build-up to it, and they don't listen to that. So there's no point in me even putting it on there, especially because I have no idea what I'd put with it, like visually. I tried AI and it came up with the most hilarious, actually, little short animated video of a dragon and a person just kind of screaming randomly. And the weirdest sounding dragon I've ever heard.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fantastic. You'll have to share that with me sometime.
It was quite hilarious. I don't remember if I saved it or not, to be honest.
Well, speaking of AI, that's something that we've talked a bunch on this show about in different ways, whether it's writing or image generation and stuff. But AI is something that's been causing some upset in the world of music as well. Whether it's an AI cover where it's Plankton singing War Pigs or Mr. Krabs singing an IRA song or something, which those are pretty good. But have you used AI for your music before, or what have you Have you had any type of reaction to that kind of thing that's been coming out?
Because my my job's not on the line when it comes to music. Because obviously I don't work in music right now. It doesn't affect me. I can see where it has affected a lot of other people, and I understand that completely. My biggest thing, the issue for me herein lies in the fact that you've got all this, say music or videos or whatever it is, this art that's taken away people's jobs because a computer generated it. And I've looked at it and I've listened to it, but there's no soul behind it. There is no soul behind it. Even for, people who have no soul with writing, there's still some soul behind it because it came from them and they are, their own soul. So just like you said before, there are Hans Zimmer imitators, but you can tell when it's him and you can tell when it's not him. Like if you let me listen to like 2 different songs and didn't tell me whose is whose, I probably would be able to differentiate because AI cannot make your music. AI cannot make Hans Zimmer's music. It cannot make my music. It can't make anybody's music. It is because everybody has their own style, and AI just goes off every style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very not that. I mean, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants and all that, but with AI being exclusively derivative, I wonder because it keeps getting better, way faster, and it's just gonna keep getting better. But I like it when AI is reserved as a tool, because then, and there's a lot of precedent for that. It's a new toy, it's a new tool, and all that. When it starts actually replacing people, that's where it gets pretty weird. Like here in StudioME, we've started experimenting. We've been using AI for different tasks in our studio spaces to make things easier and more streamlined for our clients. It's not like the image generative or chat GBT kind of thing, but it's still used as a tool. Because the way that we have been approaching it is AI's coming, we're not going to stop it, but it hasn't been defined how it's going to be used yet. And just because we've invented nuclear weapons doesn't mean we've seen through mutually assured destruction,
Yeah.
But trying to figure out what's the best way to use this thing, because I think there's a meme going around that said something along the lines of, I don't want AI to make art and music for me. I want to do my laundry
and my dishes,
so that I can
where
do
I'm just like,
music and
okay,
art.
so we're going to do this and this is what we're going to do with it? Like, aren't we supposed to be making life easier?
Yeah. So they still haven't.
Where's Smart House?
I still it would be really cool if someone invented a dryer that also folds, clothes. That'd be rad. I'd love that. If someone hasn't gotten onto it yet, you can please steal that idea. But anyway, well, good. Well, I think we're just about wrapping up here. We're going to have both of the films in the description below. Is there any social media or perhaps your TikTok where maybe people can follow you that we can put in the description? Is that something, or is it just stick with the films for now?
Potentially. I don't know. It's not. I don't have my own website. I'm using a Wix right now.
Gotcha.
I am waiting until I can afford to pay for my own, whatever it's called. I'm not good with technology, so
That's all right.
I don't. Whatever domain, is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, people just look in the description below for those 2 films and perhaps some other social media goodies. We'll see. Big surprise. We'll find out later. But thank you so much for spending this time with me. It's been great to talk with you about this stuff. I've enjoyed your music and the films that you've composed for so far. I'm looking forward to the next ones that I'm sure you'll be doing. And I just want to say thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this loyal episode of the StudioMEcast. Don't forget to register for the 48-hour film project when it opens here in July 22nd. Get your teams together, everybody. Looking forward to this fall. And if you're just a spectator, make sure you get those tickets. It's a screening that's sure to fill up. But until next time, we hope you like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. And have a good weekend. Bye-bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to start your own podcast, why wait? Reach out to us at StudioME.me, and I hope you hear me again soon.